So for your terms, we're going to run through. We're going to give definitions. We're going to do examples. I'll try to explain clarification with them. Some of the terms you're going to be familiar with. So when it comes to things like personification and onomatopoeia, you've definitely heard before. Some you might be familiar with, but it could be a while since you have last gone over it. So first one, and again, all 20 of these are going to be showing up on Friday's quiz. So at the top of the page, more so than anything, I'd probably give yourself a little bit of a reminder. Quiz on Friday. And again, that'll be the very first thing we do at the beginning of class, 20 points where you're going to be matching it. All right? All right, definition, meter. Nothing to do with measurement so far as centimeters, millimeters, and all those things, but it is still a form of measurement. Essentially, the best synonym for you would probably be rhythm. So the rhythm of a poem, where you have a consistent pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. So meter, when it comes to a poem, is going to be a consistent pattern of stressed, unstressed syllables. Comparison that you've heard many times, obviously, is going to be music with poetry, because you tend to have the same types of things so far as rhyme schemes and things of that nature. Rhythm is the way that the music is going to go, essentially the beat to it. Poems, not all of them, but most of them tend to also have a rhythm or a beat where you have that pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. Probably when you were reading Shakespeare last year with 9th grade, might have talked about iambic pentameter and all that kind of stuff. That would be a type of meter that would be taking place. So meter is just going to be a pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables. Logan knows what a foot is. Attached to your ankle. Don't write that. That would be hilarious. Foot's a type of, relates to meter. All that a foot is, and we'll use the term feet along with it, a foot is just going to be one metrical unit. So where it talks about this pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables, a foot is just one metrical unit where you are going to have examples of types of feet in numbers 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So when it comes to what's a foot, iambic is going to be an example, trochaic is going to be an example, so on and so forth. So if you have meter, you have a succession of feet in the poem that match up. So it's the same repetition, the same pattern over and over and over.
So it's like pretty much all.
Well, so specifically, the ones here that are underlined, number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, these are all specific types of metrical feet. I'll come back to this page here in a second. Maddie, think of a 2-syllable word.
Landmine. Big phone.
Thank you, Maddie. Can't say Josh or Joshua. 2-syllable? What would be a 2-syllable? 2-syllable word. Landmark?
Yeah.
Okay. First time I thought you said landmine.
Landmine.
Any other 2-syllable words?
Wombo. Walmart. No, like that's the context of it.
Table. Pizza.
Walmart. Yeah. Something. What?
I like how when I ask for 2 syllables, people start going.
Yeah, it's easy that. I don't know.
Do you do the chin? Now they do the chin thing. We're supposed to hold your hand. The number of times your chin hits your hand would be the
I would do it. I feel like
Pizza. All right. So 4, and we're going to come back to these words. When it comes to the different type of feet, and it looks like we got to reload. Iambic, trochaic. These are both 2-syllable feet that we are looking at. So when it comes to this, I've got to wait here to reload again. All right, so for iambic, listen up. For iambic, iambic are 2 syllables. It's a 2-syllable foot that the order is, it says unstressed, followed by stressed. So right now for iambic, you'd have 2 lines, and in the middle, unstressed, stressed. The shorthand that you use to identify unstressed and stress are 2 little marks. You have what's called a cup for unstressed, looks like a little lowercase u, just doesn't have a line coming down. Stressed is like a little slash there, okay? So if you were to go through, if you were to write an iambic poem or an iambic play, if you were writing with verse with Shakespeare, you would have alternating unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be 2-syllable words that you're going to use, but your pattern would be unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. If you think about songs, certainly you can manipulate a couple things, the number of syllables that you use in a word. Sometimes they'll add syllables, sometimes they'll take them away. And you can also manipulate the way that you say the word that you enunciated to emphasize certain points. If you take a look at the words that we were coming up with here, so Maddie, dolphin, landmark, something, pizza, table, do you think any of them would go unstressed, stressed, where you would start off, you still say the word, it's not that you're going to go table, but the way that you pronounce it, that you would put more emphasis on the second syllable.
dolphin. 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 Something. Dolphin.
I'd agree with dolphin.
Something.
I think something and landmark are going to be different. I think it's going to be something else. Take a look at pizza. Is it pizza or pizza? I think pizza, most people would go stressed, unstressed. What do you think for your name? Like,
How can you tell the difference?
well, hold on. What do you think table? I think you would stress the first one more often than not. When you say stress, listen up, guys. When you say stress, it doesn't mean which syllable do you pronounce louder. More often than not, I think stress would be the one that you tend to elongate as you say something. I need a table for tonight. Do you have a table for sale? Generally, I think the table part you say longer than the bull. Did you give Maddie the note? Is Maddie here today? The second part of the name, I think you elongate just a little bit. You put a little bit more emphasis. Some words are easier than others to figure out. If you have a word that has like a prefix or a suffix or like an ing ending on it or something like that, I need to go running. Usually you're going to say run with a little bit more emphasis than you're going to say in. Some words, though, are going to be kind of difficult to decipher, and there could be a word where a person says it differently based on dialect or whatever, where you might emphasize other parts more so than others. But if you were to do something, in iambic meter, you would be going unstressed stress. So the words that we had, dolphin, I think would be a good example. Mentioned, name Maddie. If you see someone that you know, you're not just going to say hi. You might even say, hello, as opposed to, hello, hello. Why do you work?
Money.
Money. Now again, depending how you're using the term, what you want the emphasis to be on, you might kind of subtly change those things a little bit. But generally those words would fall in iambic or would be unstressed stressed. For your quiz, all right, for tomorrow, for Friday, you're not going to be matching words. It's not going to be iambic and then dolphin, and you have to match those up. But your definition would simply go, it's unstressed stressed. So you would have to know that iambic means unstressed stressed. If you are writing a poem, and this is not something that we're going to get involved into, where it's going to be a little bit more than we would want to do, Shakespeare's poetry is considered to be written in iambic pentameter. So all that means, and notice in pentameter you have the word meter, all that means is with pent, you think of the number 5, so it would be 5 examples of iambic. So you would be going unstressed stressed, unstressed stress, unstressed stress, unstressed stressed, unstressed stressed. So his whole line of poetry would be 10 syllables, and it would just follow this wave pattern of unstressed stressed, unstressed stressed, unstressed stressed. This isn't something that you're going to have to necessarily do. But if you were going to write a poem in iambic hexameter, that means you would have 6 of these, so now you would have 12 feet instead of 10. I bet without too much thought you can figure out what trochaic is going to be if iambic is unstressed stressed. This is going to go stressed unstressed. So with the words that we were looking at before, pizza, table, those would be examples of stressing the first syllable, not stressing the second one. Dylan, when you think of Brendan, what's the first word that comes to mind? Ugly. Stressed, unstressed. Well, that's 3 syllables.
Cutie. Bulldog.
How many syllables?
2.
Bulldog.
Fire.
Five.
No, it's 1.
Fire.
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 It depends how you say it.
In the dictionary, it comes in as being 1 syllable. But, so, from a phonetic standpoint, and this would go for fire, higher, tire, they would all be 1 syllable words. But they would be examples of words that you could certainly stretch out and turn it into 2 and manipulate it so that you could go fire. And I think most people would say it's trochaic, so you're going to emphasize the first part, and then you have like a little bit of an on the end. So it's a good word where you can kind of see how you can tweak things a little bit to get it to fit a specific purpose. But again, you're not going to have words on your quiz where you have to match them up. and tell me which is which. It's simply going to be, if it's unstressed, stressed, you know it's iambic. If it's stressed, unstressed, it's going to be trochaic. Landmark and something were the other two words. Those would be considered spondaic. Spondaic is stressed followed by stressed. Come back to it. So spondaic, we said landmark, something, football, scoreboard. All those words, a common thread that they have is that they are not only two syllable, but they are also compound words. So they're words where you're taking two smaller words and you're putting them together. Those are spondaic. Now, it's pretty rare that you're going to have a poem that's all spondaic because that means you're stressing every part. So there might be kind of like a spondaic element that shows up within a poem. But if it's spondaic, it's saying that you say both syllables with the same amount of emphasis. You stress them. It's not football or football, but like football. The game, you can follow the time on the scoreboard. We can turn it into three syllables, I guess, if we need to. All right, Gavin wanted to know about, well, what happens to 5 and 6? 5 and 6 are a little different because they're not two syllables, but they're actually three syllables. So if it's anapestic, it is unstressed, unstressed, stressed. Unstressed, unstressed, stressed. Bandana.
And not bandana is yellow like a bandana. No, it's not. Bars. Dude, I'm gonna be the next new rap star. I'm gonna be like running like a whole okay, I'm gonna do the next.
Understand. Does everyone understand that your essay is due tonight?
Yeah.
Now, this is still a compound word like what we had before with spondaic, but it's three syllables. So you're going unstressed, unstressed, stressed. Similar thing to like understand, it's a synonym essentially, but do you comprehend? Comprehend. Which one?
Yeah, I did. I forgot.
I feel like you stress the first. I feel like I naturally stress the first. Acknowledge. So that's the opposite, which is going to be dactylic. Okay. Now, if again we're not writing poems in a formal meter, this doesn't mean that you would have to use only three-syllable words. You could have, say, you go with anapestic you have it 4 times, so you have 12 syllables. You could still have 2-syllable words mixed in with a 1-syllable word and a 3-syllable word, but the pattern would be that it goes unstressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, unstressed, stressed. Jack was asking about a different word. Dactylic is going to be just a flip of anapestic, so you are going to go stressed and then unstressed, unstressed. So you said acknowledge was your example. Oops, if I can spell it. So, acknowledge. At the zoo, they had a buffalo.
What's the shortest 3-syllable?
There's not a letter.
Yes.
What? Wait. Whoa. A-W-N.
Acknowledge.
Acknowledge.
Yeah, wait.
I don't think that's how you spell.
That's awkward.
Knowledge. No, it's acknowledged.
AC.
Oh yeah, it's AC.
Yeah, it's AC.
Good job, King.
No,
no.
you learned English, teacher.
I did too. I thought it was
I saw it in the last second. Acknowledge.
Oh man, that's awful. No, you're not.
That's awful
It's okay.
When you think of Brendan, what do you think of?
word.
Bandana.
Wait, you're giving up on acknowledge because you can't spell it?
Yeah,
He just called
move
you
on.
excellent. He's like, yeah, why?
He's reading
Excellent.
I try and watch out.
Excellent.
acknowledge.
Now notice with this one, you got you have what we consider to be a prefix, but because we're not, sometimes prefix can still end up being emphasized a little bit. So normally the root word is the part that gets emphasized a little bit more, but here the prefix, it's excellent. So anapestic, unstressed, unstressed, stress. Dactylic is going to be stressed, unstressed, unstressed. Any questions?
How do you spell?
Begins with an A. Ends with an A.
You're not getting upper kids. Oh no, he's got a great guy.
When was the last time you read TAs?
How do you spell?
I guarantee I can spell it.
I think I've
It's
helped you out
ACK.
quite a bit this year.
Yeah.
It's ACK.
You also.
Yeah, we
I don't know how to spell just so much.
Yeah, look, dude, you wrote it with green.
Good
AC.
job.
Look, dude, he made everything else black. Oh yeah, look, you're gonna have to be a baby, so get over it.
Why did they have guys in the lab when you were just like, look at the fact that he put a W instead of a C. You're like,
Get up, Brendan.
I made an edit.
Look at that. It's such a nice
That wasn't.
All right. Scanning. All scanning is. It's not a type of meter like we have going on here. Scanning is simply identifying stressed and unstressed syllables. So if you're told that you have to scan a poem, you're simply going to go through and identify the stressed and unstressed syllables. Nothing more than that. So meter is the pattern. Meter is the pattern. A foot is an individual type of meter, so an individual pattern. Scanning is when you go through and you identify, it's the verb of finding those patterns. And then dactylic, anapestic, spondaic, trochaic, iambic, those are the type of feet that you would identify. So 1 through 8 all deal with something with meter. Those would be the 8 that you probably want to focus on the most to make sure that you can differentiate one from the other. But again, when it comes to the types of meter, I'm not going to put words up there that you have to identify. It's simply going to be, do you know the pattern? So making sure you know the difference between iambic and trochaic, dactylic and anapestic, those are going to be the two big things that you want to kind of focus on. Since we're still here on the front side of page free verse, free verse is going to be a type of poem. This is a type of poem, has nothing to do with rhyme, but if it is free verse, it is a poem without a set meter or any kind of scheme to it so far as the feet. So if we were to say, all right, I want you to write a free verse poem, you're not keeping track of syllables, you're not keeping track of stress.
You're just writing a paragraph.
Alright, hold on. We still got some time. First thing, tomorrow when you come in, listen up. Tomorrow when you come in, poetry packet's going to be there. I want you to pick that up. Tomorrow, at the beginning of class, if you have Fahrenheit 451 with you, the book, we'll be able to check those things in because you will no longer need it. So bring in Fahrenheit 451 tomorrow. If you don't have Fahrenheit 451 tomorrow, that's okay. But you want to turn that in sooner rather than later because the longer it takes, the better chance of something like that disappearing. Tomorrow, the meter, the poetry term sheet, we're going to go over the back. The back is going to be more figurative language type stuff, so we'll be taking a look at those and a lot of examples. And then possibly by the end of class tomorrow, we can hopefully start doing
We're doing like April Fool's.
It's like helping one kid and failing the rest is not going to waste more time.
I'm gonna do that the whole way out.
You know, I'm gonna forget this information just watching lunch.
That's why I'll yell at you at lunch.
Awesome. You're gonna be yelling at me for lunch for not even know what. I'm like, geez, no, don't put your focus on yelling at my friend who might have a beanie. If he's Alex, because he wears the beanie all the time. Yeah, keep your focus on that. I'm gonna be put something on the forget anyways.
I will yell at you.
Yeah,
You're loud.
I'm very loud. Somebody could help me do that. Just keep my headphones out once in a while.
I'm dying. I was like, alright.
Yo, did you know that?